Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow space blobs and weirdos and earth blobs and sun blobs, and also my gorgeous butterflies emerging into new forms or entering into a season of goo and dissolving. I am really grateful that you are here with me in this moment. I think we're all needing moments right now that bring us into very centered, clear, calm space that feels also very alive. I know I'm needing that. And I'm hoping this conversation today will provide some of that energy and that presence and that numinous quality of knowing that can bring us forward into the next chapter of this world, of our lives, of our soul gifts, and how much they matter and how much they can make a difference in this world. And this full moon is a really great opportunity, the full moon in Leo, to explore our innate gifts and who we truly are. And this conversation, I hope, will encourage you to feel through that at this time. But really, what I wanted to talk about too, as I was preparing for our time together here, is I was thinking about this thing that's happening right now for me where I'm experiencing two things simultaneously and they're in dialogue. And it's been a really interesting physical and emotional sensation to move through. And I have a feeling many of you can relate. So, on the one side of it, I am feeling crushed and devastated and full of grief about kind of the state of our world as it stands right now. You know, these big systems are failing vulnerable communities at a level and so blatantly that it's just kind of mind-blowing. And I am part of several vulnerable communities, and I know many of us in this space are part of vulnerable communities and are feeling this deeply. So I'm feeling all of that, and sometimes I just have to kind of sit down and have a good cry on the floor. But then simultaneously, I'm also having this experience where my spirit, my soul song, like this fire that comes from like my solar plexus is so alive. And it's not even just like anger or frustration. It's like this clear, calm, centered, spiritually rooted, like knowing that is so much bigger than just little old me. It's like me as well as my connection to everything. And that's more alive than it's ever been. And my desire to create and to connect and to do things that feel really true and to find moments of centered calm is more present than it's ever been. And I'm curious, is anybody else feeling this simultaneous experience right now? Because I think it's a really innate part of the conversation. And this full moon in Leo on February 12th is going to be highlighting just this dynamic. And so we're going to feel through that today in our conversation and our time together and really like dig into this idea. And if you love conversations where we pull apart ideas, we reframe archetypes, we take some of the fear and stress out of astrology and spirituality and come back to a nourishing, centering place, I would highly recommend sticking around, subscribing. And I have so many more beautiful things coming up. But back to this conversation, let's get into this beautiful full moon in Leo. This full moon in Leo is a moment of deep clarity, sight, and perspective that can help many of us engage with our soul song, that true creative expression that is innate within us from the time we are very, very, very small children, and that lives with us throughout our lives and is always asking for expression. And the really big conversation going on here is that this full moon is going to be squaring off against Uranus, the agent of change in fixed sign Taurus. So this is going to create what's called a T-square. We have the sun in Aquarius, the moon in Leo, and they are both squaring off against fellow fixed sign Uranus in Taurus, creating that T-square conversation. Now, a lot of times in astrology, you will hear this talked about as a very dramatic moment of rupture, or fresh stress or frustration and agitation and all of these things. But I actually see it so differently than that and experience it so differently than that. And I have a feeling many of you do as well, because for me, these moments of a little bit of tension like that, where you have things in conversation this way, helps us get really clear on what we mean, on how we're using our energy, on where we are using energy and just wearing ourselves out with no good end to it, where we realize we need to focus, where we realize we need to shift. And this square off with Uranus is also important because we are preparing for Uranus to shift out of Taurus this year and into Gemini, which is going to be a really big energetic change. And we've been working with Uranus and Taurus since 2018. So this full moon is also an invitation to explore how we've changed, how we've grown, how we've learned to express ourselves in these last 7 or so years, and what that has meant for our evolution and the way we have changed. But I want to kind of come back to this theme around this squaring off and this clarifying thing that is moving through with this full moon. Because for me, it really speaks to how contrast helps us to get clear on what really matters. And this can be, of course, small things in our lives, little moments of like routine or clothing that we're wearing that feels itchy, whatever it might be, those little moments of contrast where it's a moment to check in with ourselves and think about what we'd want to shift, what we'd want to change about our routines, where things aren't working. And of course, we can also think about contrast in these much larger societal structures and expectations of ways of being, of producing, of consuming that don't feel natural or very good. But I think what's important about this is, like, as we experience and think about those little places where we might feel a little pinched off, we might feel a little worn down, we might feel like it's not in alignment with who we truly are. This isn't just wasted energy that we feel the contrast. It's not just something we're doing in vain or that's incorrect or naive or silly. It isn't wasted discomfort. And I think that's really important because sometimes when we get stuck in the feeling of contrast, when we feel like that's all we're allowed to do is just feel the contrast and never have any movement in a direction, that can feel very disabling. It often leaves us in the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response where our bodies shut down a little bit or get into a rhythm that is very aggravating. But the thing is that as we kind of acknowledge places where we are feeling that pinch, where we are feeling that discomfort, we are also unlocking energy. We are also unlocking places of deep expression and soulfulness. And so it isn't wasted to feel contrast right now. It kind of brings me back to what I was saying at the very beginning of our conversation today, which was that I'm feeling both this discomfort of feeling like I'm living in these systems that are coming to these massive points of dysfunctionality, and that is a big contrast that I'm experiencing. And at the same time, I'm feeling closer to my soul than I've ever felt before. That's very much this Leo full moon. It's calling us to express something. It's calling us forward into soul expression. And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about in this whole T-square full moon conversation, because the soul spark is alive. And it brings me around to the archetype of Leo. We haven't really addressed this conversation yet in our conversation today, but Leo is the sign of the creative, childlike self-expression. And the secret with Leo, I'm a Leo sun and Mars and Mercury, so Leo is kind of my wheelhouse, let's say. But the secret with Leo is it's not about the ostentatious display like it's often talked about, with this idea of it being the archetype of royalty and rulers and like attention seeking, where you wear leopard print and you make every day about you and the drama. You know, that's the stereotype of Leo. But the secret to working with Leo is that it's not about becoming somebody else. It's not about performing yourself into a better version of yourself or self-improvement. The secret with Leo is the ability to perceive the gifts that are already there with us, the ingredients that are already there with us, and then to live within that, to let ourselves be how we are. Of course, like, we can always improve communication and learn new skills and develop and evolve. We do that in life. That is a natural, beautiful part of life. But the secret with Leo is that it's the childlike creativity and joy. So it's not about trying to become somebody we're not. It's not about trying to force creativity out of ourselves. It's about this comfort with being able to actually see and witness the gifts that we have. Because this is the thing. So often in life, we will have these gifts. They are so innate to us that we literally cannot see them. they seem insignificant. They seem boring. They seem like they are not enough because they are so innate that we feel like it should hurt more to do it. It should be more of a struggle. It's not enough. People are just going to think this is so boring to do because it comes so naturally to you. And of course, we develop skills, we get better at it, but a lot of times, like just things that we are innately good at, maybe comforting a friend or making a space feel homey or making wild art, that just is provocative. Like you're just good at doing little sketches and like suddenly people are having emotions, whatever it is. Like, but they just seem so easy to us. Those are places of deep clarity and knowing. And so it's interesting because there's also an element of ease to this full moon, I think, which you wouldn't think, right? We've just been talking about contrast and we've just been talking about like that sense of tension as we square off with the agent of change, which is Uranus, and this need for things to change and evolve, and this call for things to change and evolve. And that's really what this square off is all about. It's like things need to change, but it's not by just changing who we are and saying, okay, I'm just going to override my entire system, become something else, and then fix the world. This full moon is inviting us into who we truly are and the ingredients we have within us and honoring that. And a lot of the places we're going to notice contrast, where we're going to notice that pinching, where we're going to notice that discomfort, are going to be places where we're being asked to try and leave ourselves behind, where we're trying to kind of pull ourselves forward in some kind of way. And actually where there's flow, where there's ease, where there's that leonine kind of joy and play, which is this full moon is really asking for us to highlight, is going to feel easy and soft. And that might feel taboo right now, because if you're justice minded and you're thinking about the problems of the world, it might feel very taboo to focus on elements of yourself that feel natural and easy, because doesn't that mean you're not doing enough? Doesn't that mean that the struggle isn't deep enough? And I just want to question that a little bit here in this moment during this full moon. The final thing I wanted to bring up with all of that we've just been talking about is that this is a full moon, right? And it's a full moon coming right before Venus retrograde, right before eclipse season as well is about to take off. It's a time, it's the first full moon of the Lunar New Year. It's a time to release energy as well. Full moons are all about that beautiful exhale. And so what I want to suggest here is that there is no amount of shame, guilt, or fear that is going to fix this world. So many of us in this space are so conscientious, and many of us work with shame, guilt, and fear throughout our lives, and it's there as kind of an element that we're figuring out how to acknowledge but not live via. But like, there's no amount of that is going to give you permission to exist, or permission to be who you are, permission to have the gifts that you have. So what can you not control? What is not yours to control that you can let go of during this full moon? And then on the flip side to that, what is within your ingredients, your magical cauldron of who you are that you can lean into? Where can you focus in? Just thinking about that rebalancing, I think, is a really great way to just think about this big, tense square off with these fixed signs, inviting us into exploring that. And it's not about who we think we need to be, who we need to aspire to be. It's about what's already here. What's already here with us in this space, in this moment. And are we allowed to let that be enough to change everything? And I'm going to be doing a really beautiful, soft practice over in my lovely, gentle, wild dreaming community over on Patreon for this full moon. It is going to be all about feeling the contrast, feeling the pinchness, and then also then noticing what that's awakening in our ingredients that we innately have within us, and really feeling that empowered, clear, leonine, centered energy that we all have within us. Even if you have no planets in Leo, you still have this energy within you, and it is beautiful to access. I am a little biased about Leo, I'll admit, but I would love to see you over there if you haven't joined me yet. We have so many beautiful wild dreaming practices, and it's a really safe, respectful, loving, safe space on the internet, which we need right now. So I am super grateful for that space. And I'm shuffling my cards, feeling through this big full moon. It's so powerful. It's so clarifying. It's just one of those moments of recognition, I think, and a rebalancing of energies, which I'm going to find really refreshing because I think we're already feeling the need for rebalance in this year. We're feeling the need for recognition, the Hanged Man. If you've been with me for a little while, you know that the Hanged Man is perhaps, it's up there. It's in like my top 5 of energies and archetypes to work with for sure. Maybe even top 3, I would say. It's hard to pick a favorite, but Hanged Man, wisdom, it's very good stuff. And I think it's so fitting right now in this version of the world that we are living in. It's so fitting, actually. Because it's all about turning things on their head and seeing things from different perspectives. And 9 of Cups, that's so interesting, right? I mean, the 9 of Cups is an energy of deep contentment and peace and safety and softness and not being alert and on our guard. I'm going to pull one more card because I just can't resist. This is such an interesting combination of energies so far that we're looking at here, because these are all about framing and perspective. And 6 of Swords, there's that full moon quality of release, of allowing a past shore to go. Okay, so we got a lot. We have a lot here energetically and symbolically that we can work with as we move through these cards. So like I mentioned, the Hangman is one of my favorite modalities. This is a very innate modality that I've always lived with in my life. So the Hanged Man represents so many things. This figure is often connected to the world tree. And there are so many myths, including in Norse mythology, where a figure is hanging from this world tree in some way. So the activation, the presence, the initiation of the journey here, and what we're being asked to do is to commune with that world tree, but to do it in such a way where we are playing with our perspective. All is not as it might appear on the surface, on the superficial level of the world. It might look like one thing while something else is going on. A set of contrasts we might be experiencing might simply feel like just contrast, just this horrible, horrible contrast. And at the same time, it might also be revealing new layers of ourselves, our gifts, or where we need to go in life and what our path is. The beautiful thing about the Hanged Man energy is it is a card of deep hope via the initiation of rebirth through communing with the world tree, which has these roots that go down deep into the underworld and these branches that go up into the heavens of the sky, and that it connects all of those things. This figure is a figure of deep optimism, and I mean that in the sense of being able to perceive and witness the magical numinous ingredients around us at all times and actually engaging with them. So not rushing over them, not trying to rush to conclusions about this, what the meaning of everything is right now, but to really pay attention to the ingredients. What is around you in this moment? What is around you during this full moon? What is arising from you? What is your body telling you? What is an impulse or an urge that is telling you? The Hanged Man is also in the shape of the kind of sigil for Jupiter, that planet of expansion and beauty. And I just love this card. This is Sacred Fool energy, which means everything is turned on its head and we're seeing everything from upside down. And that gives us a view into what's really going on in the world, which is really interesting. So it's a powerful, potent card. It's asking us to see through the numinous lens rather than the mundane, and to challenge ourselves to really be present for that during this full moon, which I love. But this is what I was saying about this kind of simultaneous experience that's going on right now, where there's this like deep, present powerful thing going on that takes resources and requires paying attention and takes energy and focus and feeling. And then there's this other side to this full moon and this time right now, which is about the softer moments. And I love that the Nine of Cups is showing up for this because, like I said, Leo is not about striving to become somebody else and perform your way into attention just for attention's sake. Leo is about coming home to ourselves and allowing that comfort and ability to perceive our gifts be the modality through which we are known and loved and change the world. And the Nine of Cups is all about the ease. It's all about where we feel safe. It's all about where we feel comforted. And I think it's a reminder right now that it's very important for all of us to take time in our safe spaces with beloved people, with feelings of safety and security and softness and gentleness where we can. It is just as important of ingredient as any other of these powerful ingredients. It's just as important as the contrast. It's just as important as the clarity and the ability to perceive, is also treating ourselves with softness and kindness. And that's really the aim and the goal and the meaning of Nine of Cups. What feels good, what feels natural. And then this is our full moon element here that we're concluding our time together here with today, which is the Six of Swords, one of my favorites as well. And this is an energy of leaving an old shore and heading across the river into new waters, new vistas we have not seen yet. One of the things I love is this staff that the boatman, the ferryman is pushing through the water is black. And that is denoting possibility. It's denoting the mystery of possibility. And I often talk about the unimaginable horizon, this horizon that we really can't wrap our analytical minds around. There are ingredients and communions and witnessings and heartfelt creations that we have not seen yet. And while there might be a lot of noise going on in the larger systemic world at this time, there is also this subtler magic that is happening. And it can be easy to deny it to ourselves or to brush it under the rug or say it's not enough. But I think at this time, it's really important to very purposefully witness it and be present with it. It's real and it's there. And it affects things. And the more that those of us who are able to tap into that larger field and feel through it are allowing ourselves to do that, the better right now. Also, this is about, your own journey. This Leo full moon is also just a moment of checking in with how your path is changing, what really brings you to life, what you want to bring into focus or presence in the coming months, what wants to be expressed through you, what needs to shift because it's pinching you off and it doesn't feel good, and it can be mundane, it can be something very simple, or it can be something deeper and more profound. It's a deep check-in point and an honest moment of clarity. I'm really curious to hear, how are you feeling? Let me know in the comments. I love reading through what life is offering up for you right now and how you're feeling. Are you feeling that simultaneous experience like I've been feeling? How is that feeling for you? I want to know. So please feel free to leave me a comment. And like I've mentioned, my Wild Dreaming community over on Patreon is my happy place. I love it so much. It is an amazing community. I am preparing a Wild Dreaming journey through Venus retrograde, which will be beginning on February 28th, and I would love to see you there for that. We are going to move through that and activate our Wild Dreaming soul songs week after week in these really soft, beautiful, surrealist practices. Like, you only need a pen and some paper and we are set to fly. And it's amazing what you can do with just those two ingredients. So I'd love to see you for all that we are doing in that space, as well as the practice for this full moon. I love to see you here. Every subscription, every like really makes a difference. I know in this world of busyness, it's a lot to ask, but I would love it if you stuck around. I really loved having this conversation together and having this moment. Hang in there. There's some really good stuff awakening in so many of us, and I am really excited to see where it brings us. I will talk to you so soon.